One Hell of a Team by Nyan Sanketsu, Chapter 8, All Eyes on Me. See, there's something about my family and redheads. Isn't Ruby technically a redhead? Yank, no, protect the child. Hey, I am right here. All eyes on me. Pyrrha fought like a demon. Say what you would about her manners and behavior in class. When it came to a fight, she was downright vicious, no restraint, nothing held back. She knew how to fight, and woe betide someone if they got in her way. It wasn't even that she tried to be forceful, nor was it a mean streak. Pyrrha was sweet as sugar. She just become a little selfish now. When she fought, she used everything she had. Today, Ruby Rose was learning or recalling the lesson the hard way in combat class. Naruto looked down from the stands and winced a little as his favorite redhead flicked her shield out to catch the little Reaper on the chin. He heard the crack even from here. One didn't need the meters above to know she had lost a good fourth of her aura with that hit. Ouch, that looked painful. Not enough to stop her, though. Yang sidled up beside him. Look, Ruby went spinning to the ground, but only for a moment. The scars had she struck the mat, then she bounded back in a cloud of crimson petals. Pyrrha planted her feet and weathered them with aquo, her shield holding firm in the face of the sudden storm. Milo swept through, seeking the girl in the haze, only for the petals to part and flow from her blade. Down below, Milsha and Melanie hollered their encouragement. Kick her ass, Red! Yeah, show her who's boss. Weiss quirked a brow of her own as Ruby materialized and locked weapons with Pyrrha. Someone's fired up this morning. Naruto coughed into a fist as Pyrrha's sword shifted to become a rifle, turning that giddy grin into a yelp of surprise. Milo barked, propelling Ruby backwards with a round of gravity dust. Anyone else would have sailed right out of bounds. Not Ruby Rose. She spun and fired in reverse, sniper propelling her back into the fray. Pyrrha met her gladly. They fell into a storm of blows that drew whistles and catcalls from those watching. They're not the only ones. Still, the ghost, really, it was amazing how far they'd come. A single late night rendezvous turned into several. Within a few weeks, it became something of a routine for him and Pyrrha every other night. She'd inevitably built up stress on the days ground by. Together, they burned it off at night, be it sparring with their weapons or other things. She'd never been happier, neither had he. I know that grin. So, Yang prodded him with an elbow. How is she? Naruto kept his eyes on the fight. How is who? Don't play dumb. You were noisy last night. Really? Weiss caught on quickly with a louse of absolute dismay. That was you on the roof? Have you two no shame? Nope. Why should they? They cared for one another. He could say that with utmost certainty. Pyrrha, it wasn't that she completed him, but rather he felt he could be himself around her. Likewise, she lowered her guard around him. No prim and proper girl here. She'd even been known to cuss a time or two. A cry of pain drew his attention back to the bout below. Ruby's aura was shaved off to much more. Think she can win? Yang lowered his gaze with a grimace. Depends who you're talking about. While they looked on in quiet contemplation, Ruby hooked crescent rolls around Pyrrha's shield and yanked. Something sparkled in her weapon, lightning dust, and the champion recoiled as her muscles spasmed. Ruby seized the moment, using that brief lapse of rest, Pyrrha's arm down to the right, exposing her. In the same instant, she levered herself up on the half of her hulking weapon and kicked. Pyrrha's head snapped back with the crack of her aura. Her recovery was quick, but anyone could see the brief flicker of surprise in her eyes. John pumped a fist in the air. Go, Ruby! Ruby drove after her with a holler, pressing the offensive like a berserker. Naruto contented himself with a low whistle instead. Someone upped her training. Yep. Yang smacked her lips. She's 2 years younger after all. How else do you think she got admitted to Beacon with us? Didn't it have something to do with that dust robbery she broke up? Well, that helped. Yang all but glowed with sister pride. She put a lot of bad guys behind bars, all by herself. Weiss huffed. I still say she shows off. Yang's smile slipped into a frown. Hey now, that's my sister you're talking about. Care to try your luck then? Naruto flashed a lean card. She already thrashed John 100 lien on Pyrrha. Weiss winced. You're on. Yang chuckled. Huh, easy money. Weiss swiped at her arm half-heartedly. We shall see. Naruto let them squabble and turned his gaze back to the fray. Pyrrha was undoubtedly stronger, but even he could see that Ruby was the more agile, due in no small part to her absurd semblance. It gave her that rare edge that the resident redhead lacked. Not only did it make her devilishly difficult to hit, it gave her strikes sheer momentum. It wasn't that she disliked Ruby, far from it. She had so much potential, and yet for all that latent ability, he could already see the outcome. Naruto leaned on the rail, face dangerously close to hers. She's still going to lose. Credit where it was due. Weiss did rise to the bait. You don't know that. Listen up. Listen, you. Yang placed a fist on her hip. That's my supersonic little sister down there. I practically raised her. Trust me, she's good, really good. She winced as a cry came from the arena below. But as much as it pains me to say, Pyrrha's been at this longer than her. Pyrrha surged forward suddenly, echoing those very words. Naruto saw the sweep coming before Ruby did, if only because he recognized the move. He was intimately familiar with her fighting style. Then again, so was Ruby. She hopped over it and cut down with her scythe in the same instant. Retaliation with a vicious overhead sweep. Twin jets open on the back of the haft. A recent addition meant to lend her swings more staying power. Flame with a pulse of a surefire, she struck with peal of thunder, death itself striking in a single swipe. Pyrrha saw it coming and turtled up behind her shield. The subsequent impact forced her down to a knee. Ruby grinned. At least Naruto assumed it was a grin from here. It might have been a snarl. All he saw was a gleam of pearly white teeth. She blurred into a second strike, followed by a third and a fourth, each pressing Pyrrha closer and closer to the edge of the ring. Weiss sprang to her feet. There, she's won. No, Naruto grimaced. She hasn't. Yang saw it too and winced. Bad move, sis. Weiss looked between them both, either unable to or unwilling to understand. You didn't go to the same gym we did. Yang raised the hand, counting down from 5. She's in range now. Weiss made angry Weiss noises. I don't understand. Think of it like this. Naruto planted his chin on a fist. Ruby's semblance is more than just a burst of speed. We've tried telling her that, but she refuses to believe it. And in doing so, she handicaps herself. Pyrrha knew this. She's been luring Ruby in, letting her burn herself out, use up her aura no longer. For while Ruby was very much a speedy little thing, she too was her mind. More often than not, she acted without thinking, moving on instinct, rashly leaping into danger without any regard for her safety. She would be the first to protect innocent, heedless of the risk to herself. Those were heroic traits, to be sure, but they were reckless all the same. And she's blundered. Some segments clicked in Pyrrha's shield, and Ruby tumbled back as the metal itself bulged outwards in the form of a second lance to stab at her face. The young girl squeaked and ducked aside, unwilling to tank it on her aura or risk her weapon integrity. It only cost her a second, a stumble before she turned to crimson petals and whirled away. A second was all Pyrrha needed. Quick as a flash, the second lance folded back into a shield, seemingly inert bronze once more. When Ruby came for her again, Pyrrha did not deign to block with her shield. Not this time. She whipped it at her as one might a deadly discus. Ruby dodged the side, only for the simple shield to bulge outwards again, becoming a mighty slab that slammed into her stomach. A spittle flew through the air. Yang whistled. That wasn't magnetic. The hell was that? Oh, that? Naruto whistled instantly. Did you know semblances can evolve? Lilac eyes flashed into red. Since when? Since forever. His grin was nothing short of smug. What did you think would happen once Pyrrha actually got comfortable using hers? What's a step up from polarity? Weiss answered first. Well, that would be outright magnetism, or full control of metal, perhaps even creating her own. Oh! She blinked rapidly as realization dawned, touched a finger to her chin. Oh, that's broken. Naruto pivoted to watch the brawl reach its conclusion. That a girl? You should see Pyrrha when she's really trying. Weiss created a tiny glyph in her palm, considering it as one might a fine jewel. I wonder. Yang stared at her fist, taking the words to heart. Huh. Semblances can evolve. Pyrrha didn't even ponder to use hers again. When the next swing came, she ceased all resistance and swung back, spine nearly parallel to the ground. Velocity and momentum did the rest. Deprived of its target and unable to reverse her course in time, Crescent Rose slammed into the ring with an awful crunch, wedging the blade within. Weiss wilted anew. Ruby balked. Ah, poop. Naruto Yang knew the younger could abandon her weapon and go hand to hand. Such lessons had been drilled in every student of the Leaf Gym, but Pyrrha never gave her a chance. She whirled and dove her right heel into Ruby's solar plexus in a devastating kick that all but hurled her out of the bounds. High above, her aura went into the red with a flat whine. Miss Witch raised her weapon. The match is over. You heard her. Naruto held up his hand. Pay up, Ice Queen. Weiss slammed the money into his palm. I hope you choke on it. Nah. Yang swept past and took her cut. Thanks for the finder's fee, though. A quick flip swung Naruto over the edge of the stands. From there, he hit the ground at a brisk trot. Yang was only a heartbeat behind, while Weiss followed at a more sedate pace, languishingly using a line of glyphs to walk her way down rather than give half the class a look up her skirt. Such a show-off. I'm sorry, and Pyrrha's voice rang ahead of him as they drew near. I think I went a little too hard. Ugh. And she reached Ruby just in time to see the warrior haul the stunned upright and whisper something else in her ear. Whatever she said went unheard, but it had Ruby perked up. Really? You believe in me? Definitely. Pyrrha patted her head. You nearly had me there. I'd be happy to train. Oi! Yang bowled forward to cut them off. Hands off the sister. I saw her first. Ruby whirled, cheeks red. Yang, it's not like that. Naruto and Weiss exchanged a bemused look. Trying to steal her away, are we? Naruto raised his voice in a teasing tone to make himself heard. Should I be concerned? Pyrrha pounced. There was no tradition between one moment and the next. For a fleeting second, she was with Ruby. Then she was next to him, her arms looped around his, pulling him close. That was the only warning he received. Then her mouth was on his, tongue ruthlessly plundering his mouth. It was a brief kiss, deep, fleeting. His head spun as she pulled away. Are you proud of me? Of course I am. Naruto touched his forehead to hers. Did I ever mention how much I love you? She shivered a little beneath his praise. Could you say it again? He kissed her nose. Such a glutton. Someone coughed. Vaguely, he remembered they weren't alone. Worse, a certain teacher was staring at them. Miss Goodwitch slapped her crop into an open palm. If the two of you are quite done. Pyrrha held up a finger, kissed him again, then pulled away. All right. She whipped her mouth shamelessly. I'm good. Have at it. Now then, we have just enough time for a brief match. Their teacher coughed to hide a hint of red in her cheeks and considered to scroll. Would anyone else care to face Miss Nikos? Ruby squeaked. Blake shook her head. Nope. Nora and Ren mirrored it. No, thank you. Milsha and Melanie looked defiant, but neither dared raise their hand. Silence reigned supreme, and then Neo's hand slammed into the air. Those around her backed away at speed. Even her own team retreated, wary of the sheer murderous aura steaming from her shoulders. Naruto knew it well. Hey, Pyrrha? She shifted a little in his arms. Yes, Naruto. I think you might have gone a little too hard on John. She followed his gaze and winced. Oh dear, perhaps you're right. Weiss blinked. How can you tell? That demon looks the same to me. Yang and Naruto exchanged a bland look. Demon, was Weiss that terrified of her? You don't know, Neil. The former found her voice first. That's her angry face. She only smiles like that when she's about to stab someone. The little terror drew hush from the scabbard of her parasol and pointed it at them. It was not a pleasant smile. No, hers was a grin that promised a complete and utter thrashing, not an idle threat that. Neil had always been one of more capable students back in the gym. Her record spoke for itself. Weiss pursed her lips, forming a thin line. Why would she be angry? Maybe because Pyrrha beat her man down in the last match. She scoffed. Ark acquitted himself rather well, I think. Come on, he only got one hit in, and that was pity. John finally made a grab for his partner's arm. Neo, no, you're not fighting her. His fingers passed through an illusion, heralded by the faint shattering of glass. Naruto looked down to find the little minx less than a foot away, glowering up at them. No, he realized, not him. Pyrrha. Those mismatched eyes were fixed upon the champion with keen intent, half-lidded with purpose. Pyrrha wriggled free from his grasp and moved to face her. Do you really want to fight me that badly? Her head bobbed in a curt nod. Pyrrha straightened. Then another hand rose. I'll do it. All eyes turned towards them. Fellow students parted once more, revealing a new challenger. Naruto pivoted on one heel as well. He soon wished he hadn't. Blue orbs glimpsed bright eyes, the color of poisoned honey, and dark hair framed by a small smile. Really, she could have been Blake's sister at a glance, much like Neil. And she ignored him outright. Those glimmering golden orbs were fixed upon Pyrrha. To the exclusion of all else. She wore the signature uniform of an upper year, and that alone set him ill at ease. Why did he have a bad feeling about this? Ah, Miss Fall. Glinda considered her clipboard. So nice of you to join us for once. I'll allow it. Neil stomped a foot. You're welcome to fight in the next class, Goodwitch chastised. Let someone else have a turn. Her riding crop swiped out again. Combatants, to the ring. We have little time. False went first, hips swaying as she sashayed towards the arena. Naruto tried not to look. He really did, but it was impossible. Even Miss Goodwitch was looking. Pyrrha frowned and all but stalked after her. He heard them speak as they walked. That was a fine bout. Her smile was warm, even if her eyes weren't. Someone taught you well. Pyrrha tilted her head, smile false as summer snow. And you are? Cinder. The upper year smiled. Cinder Fall. Third year. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Pyrrha. Her brow turned stormy. You know me? By reputation only. Now she'd really been in a foul mood. If there was one thing Pyrrha loathed, it was being reminded of her past. On stage at last, she settled it into a stance. Cinder grinned and reached for her weapons with a smile. Naruto made a gesture behind his back. The bell rang. It was like breaking a spell. Glinda blinked, somewhat taken aback. All right, well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Weiss flung up her arms. Blast it, why is everyone here always such a tease? None saw Naruto smile, nor noticed Neil lower her arm. It didn't even occur to them that the bell had rung a good minute earlier. That fire bitch. She had a bad feeling about her. She wasn't sure why or what, only that she did. Sure, she wanted to fight Red and Pyrrha, but only to make a point. Nobody messed with her boy, no matter how angry she might be. She didn't want to kill her. That wouldn't be any fun, to say nothing of the consequences. Anyone who actually tried would be rendered a smear on the ground by her team. Yet for a moment there, she could have sworn she'd seen murder's intent in Cinder's eyes. Perhaps she'd imagined it. Whether she hadn't or not, it changed nothing. Besides, who owed Blondie a favor? So she played a trick, a harmless use of her semblance to get Pyrrha out of her bout. Goodwitch wouldn't fall for such a trick again, not by the way she was looking at her. Busted. They both knew it. Still, she'd learned something from this. Naruto didn't want Pyrrha to fight Cinder. It wasn't Neil's place to ask why. She'd done as he asked. She had a feeling that if they ever fought, something terrible would happen. Are we sure it's her? It might not be. Minato considered the report on his desk with thinly veiled anticipation. You're certain about this? He raised his gaze to regard less than pleased Jiraiya. These were his words. More or less. The agile sage folded both arms before his broad chest. Rin and Obito were thorough, maybe a little too much so. After a moment's pause, he let the other shoe drop. We even sent Roman in to be sure. He got a bit more out of the poor bastard than we did, Minato grimaced. I dislike his semblance. Jiraiya mirrored it. On that, they were in agreement. So do I, but there's no denying its usefulness, and he is on our side. We wouldn't have Neil without him. Fair enough. So, what's the next move? Tyrion had sang like a canary underneath Genjutsu. That was precisely the problem. In his final moments, he had revealed things, interesting things. Worrying things, intelligence that threatened to alter not only their plans in this world, but the very shape of Remnant itself. Someone had to look into it. I can go, Jeriel volunteered. I'm not that rusty. No, Minato stifled a cough against his fist. I'll handle it. There it was again, that faint hitch in his breath that concerned him. He tried to hide it. Really, for the most part, he succeeded, but not from him, never him. He'd known Minato since he was a boy. He knew his tells. He could see it in the bags under his skin, the way his right hand trembled just so. Are you sure? Sensei, let me do something good while I still can. I'll be back in a few days. He reached for his cloak and mask. Be sure to keep an eye on the brats, right? And came the sigh. All right, if they keep at it like that, you might have a few grandchildren in the next few years. Minato walked into a wall and bounced off with a startled grunt. For a moment, a sliver of a second, his facade slipped. He almost looked alive. Grandbabies. A spark of light shone in his dull blue eyes. Kushina would love that, and now they came to the cusp of the problem. She's dead, Minato. You don't know that. His former student spoke quickly, too quickly. We never found the body. Don't do this. Don't go chasing ghosts. Jiraiya winced at the hope in his words. You have a son, and probably a daughter-in-law, soon. Be there for them. Naruto brindled. I have been. Have you? A pale brow quirked. Naruto asked for you at initiation. Who do you think's been running your gym the last year? He quirked a thumb at his chest. Me. Ren's got a little one on the way. Obito's too busy fussing over her, and we haven't heard from Kakashi in a week, meaning he's probably up to something. You're needed here. And I will be, I promise. After this, I need to be sure. There was no arguing with him when he was like this. Minato tugged on his mask. All right then. Time for work. This is boring. I want some action. Action! A bored Yang was a dangerous Yang, Pyrrha found. Just another lesson she learned from the Leaf Gym. When a wild Yang was bored, a wild Yang got mischievous. Such mischief could manifest in any number of ways. A fit of pique, a prank or sometimes outright disaster. One never knew. Be careful what you wish for. Miss Nikos, a voice chimed from the speaker set into the ceiling. Your father is here to see you. I repeat. Pyrrha's world sank to a single point of existence. No, panic bleated in her heart, threatening to undo all that she'd said, all that she'd done. Is that so? Naruto stood and snatched up his gauntlet. The dust crystals come to life within. All 6 of them. All right, he grinned. Let's go. A hysteric giggle burst from her. Naruto, no, you can't break his legs. Yang climbed up after him. All right, I'll bite. Always wanted to meet the asshole your dad smacked around. Weiss frowned. This sounds like a personal affair. Would you rather I stay here? She was learning, not thrusting herself into every aspect of their lives as she once had. No, you should meet him. Naruto's smile was all teeth. He makes you look tame. Weiss all but flung herself out of bed. Now this I have to see. Only then did Pyrrha realize they all had their weapons. Team weapon was fully armed. She really did love her team. Previews. She found him there in the courtyard. Caesar Nikos was much as she remembered, proud, tall, and far too full of himself. Heavy, perhaps, but then again, he'd retired from the tournament scene long ago. That he was smiling only set her on edge. She did not fall for his honeyed words. Hello, daughter. Father. Pyrrha lifted her chin in naked defiance. Why are you here? He winced a little. Straight to business, then. You always were like your mother. Pyrrha hissed. He seemed to struggle with the words. I have come to beg your forgiveness. She didn't believe him, not for a moment. Caesar Nikos did not apologize. To apologize was to admit defeat, and he never did. Pyrrha, your mother, she isn't well. She doesn't have much time left. This, Minato, clearly he won't be beaten by conventional means. Zilum tilted her head. Perhaps a more subtle approach is required. She stood from her throne and wrapped her magic about herself. It was a physical strain to cloak herself as such, but she felt herself adequate to the task. Only then did she consider her reflection, and her now pale blonde hair, a pale hand, no longer chalk white and rimmed with pulsing red veins, reached up and unbinding her flaxen tresses, leaving them to cascade down her back. Aqua blue eyes stared back at her, framed by a smug smile. Yes, I believe that will do. She frowned down at her dark robes. Perhaps a change of clothes Wouldn't do to be recognized. Hazel, fetch me my wardrobe. The giant sighs. I have a bad feeling about this. Kushina. Yes, I know that name. She passed through here some time ago. Naruto blinked. Me? Against all of you? Blue eyes flickered red. Now, it's fun. Obito materialized with a swirl of air. 100 Leon says she falls in love with him. No bet. Rin didn't look up from her magazine. Sensei could charm the pants off a freaky bitch like Good Witch. And there goes my ship. Kakashi frowned at the ceiling of the tent. Really, it was a very nice tent, large, spacious, and why the hell was he here? Where are my clothes? Why do I have a hangover? He rolled over and found a pair of bleary blood-red eyes stared back at him. Raven Bronwyn stretched sleepily, granting him a generous view of her bosom and bare body besides. Morning, handsome. Arr! Ow! Pyrrha wriggled in his lap, wincing a little as he tended to her wounds. Be careful, that stings. Hold still, Naruto sighed, dabbing her cut with a bit of cloth. Really, that was reckless. I'm not sorry. Training, please. Naruto looked down at Ruby and frowned. Distantly he heard her words, but his brain didn't quite catch up. It's a weekend. Why are you awake this early? Please. You and Neil are the only ones who can hold a candle to Pyrrha, and now there's that Cinder girl. She clasped both hands before her chest. I'm falling behind. Then why not ask Neil? She balked. Oh no, I'll die. I wanna live. Look, Ruby, it's early. I'm really tired. I'll buy you ramen for a month. Sold. End of chapter 8.